Edward Harper, 78, lived alone in a weathered house on a quiet street. His days began at dawn, staring at a cold cup of tea, hands trembling from age and illness. Diagnosed with terminal cancer, he carried a weight heavier than pain: loneliness. His children, Anna and Michael, rarely called. Neighbors hurried past without a glance. Each morning, Edward wondered if he'd find a reason to keep going. He shuffled to the window, cane in hand, watching the empty street. A faded photo on the mantel showed him with Anna and Michael laughing in a park years ago. The memory stung. They used to wave, he thought. Now I'm invisible. Mrs. Carter, once a frequent visitor with her casseroles, no longer stopped by. Edward felt like a ghost in his own life. In the doctor's office, sterile and cold, the news was unchanging. "The cancer has spread," the doctor said, reviewing charts. "We'll manage the pain." Edward nodded, clutching a notebook of unasked questions. The pain in his bones was bearable. The silence from his children was not. Anna hadn't called in 3 months. Michael sent a text last Christmas. I raised them, loved them, Edward thought, stepping into the bustling city street. Now I'm a name on their to-do list. People rushed past, their lives full of purpose, while he faded into the background. In the park, Edward fed pigeons with stale bread. A girl, Lila, about 10, sat nearby, sketching trees. "Do the birds say thank you?" she asked, her voice bright. Edward smiled faintly. "Not in words. They come back. That's enough." Lila showed him her drawing, rough but heartfelt. "My mom says I draw too much," she said, "but it makes the world stay still." Edward nodded, her words easing his burden for a moment. When Lila's mother called, she waved goodbye, leaving Edward alone again. She shared her world for a minute, he thought, more than I've had in weeks. At night, Edward sat at his kitchen table, writing letters he'd never send. "Dear Anna," he began, his handwriting shaky. Apologies, memories, questions filled the pages, but he crumpled each one, adding it to a pile. He scrolled to Anna's name on his phone, thumb hovering over the call button, then set it down. What would I say? "I'm dying, come visit. They know." The ticking clock echoed in the empty house. On a rainy afternoon, Edward struggled with groceries up his steps. His cane slipped, and he nearly fell. Jamal, a young delivery driver who'd seen Edward before, stopped his van. "Let me get that," he said, carrying the bag inside. Noticing the sparse kitchen and unopened mail, Jamal offered soup from his thermos. "My mom says it fixes everything." Edward hesitated but accepted. They ate in silence, the warmth of the soup matching a flicker of connection. He didn't have to stop, Edward thought, but he did. Edward's days blurred into routine: pills, pain, and silence. He walked to the corner store, pausing to catch his breath. A barista, Sarah, noticed his weary expression and slipped an extra pastry into his bag. "On the house," she said with a smile. Edward mumbled thanks, unaccustomed to kindness. At home, he ate the pastry, savoring its sweetness. Small things matter, he thought, a spark of hope igniting. One evening, Edward found a voicemail from Michael. "Dad, I'm sorry I've been distant. Work's been crazy, I'll call soon." The message was brief, but it stirred something in Edward. He replayed it, clinging to the promise. Maybe they still care, he thought, though doubt lingered. He wrote another letter, this time to Michael, but left it unsent, afraid of disappointment. In the park again, Edward watched Lila draw. She ran to him, showing a sketch of a bird. "It's for you," she said. Edward's eyes welled up. "You keep it," he said softly. "Draw more birds for me." Lila grinned, promising to return. For the first time in months, Edward felt seen. Edward Harper's life continued its slow rhythm, each day a battle against pain and solitude. The terminal cancer gnawed at him, but the silence from his children, Anna and Michael, cut deeper. He sat in his weathered house, the ticking clock his only companion, staring at the pile of unsent letters on the kitchen table. They know I'm dying, he thought. If they cared, they'd be here. Yet he kept writing, pouring his heart into words he couldn't send. One morning, Edward walked to the park, his cane tapping the pavement. The air was crisp, leaves crunching underfoot. He settled on his usual bench, tossing crumbs to the pigeons. Lila, the young girl with the sketchbook, appeared again, her smile bright. "I drew more birds," she said, showing him a page filled with colorful wings. Edward's weathered face softened. "You're good at this, kid," he said. Lila beamed, sitting beside him to draw the sky. "She doesn't know I'm sick," Edward thought. "She just sees me." For a moment, the weight of his illness lifted. At the corner store, Sarah, the barista, greeted him with a nod. "You look tired, Mr. Harper," she said, slipping a muffin into his bag. "Take care of yourself." Edward muttered thanks, unaccustomed to such gestures. At home, he ate the muffin, its warmth a small comfort. Why do strangers care when my own kids don't? He wondered, the thought both bitter and hopeful. One afternoon, a knock startled Edward. It was Jamal, the delivery driver, holding a small package. "Drop this off. Thought I'd check on you," Jamal said, stepping inside. He noticed the clutter, unwashed dishes, scattered papers, and offered to tidy up. Edward protested, but Jamal insisted, stacking mail and washing a few plates. "My grandma was sick too," Jamal said quietly. "I wish I'd done more for her." Edward's throat tightened. He sees his grandma in me, he thought. They shared tea, and Jamal's easy chatter filled the house with rare warmth. Edward's health worsened. Pain kept him awake, and the pills barely helped. One night, he stared at his phone, Michael's voicemail replaying in his mind. "I'll call soon." The words felt hollow, but Edward clung to them. He wrote another letter, this one to both children. "I don't blame you for your lives. I just wish I could see you before I go." He sealed it, leaving it on the table, unsure if he'd ever mail it. In the park, Lila ran to Edward, her sketchbook bursting with drawings. "This one's you," she said, showing a sketch of an old man feeding birds, his face kind but tired. Edward's eyes glistened. "That's real nice, Lila," he said, voice cracking. She hugged him, her small arms a fleeting anchor. "I'm not invisible to her," he thought, hope flickering. One evening, the phone rang. Edward's heart leapt. It was Anna. "Dad, I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaky. "Life got in the way. Can I visit this weekend?" Edward swallowed hard, torn between relief and years of hurt. "I'd like that," he said softly. After hanging up, he sat in the dark, tears falling. Maybe it's not too late, he thought. The next day, Edward walked to the park, feeling lighter. Lila waved and Jamal stopped by with soup. Neighbors nodded as they passed, their glances softer now. Edward realized the world hadn't forgotten him. Small acts of kindness had woven a fragile net of connection. He looked at the sky, the wind whispering through the trees. "I'm still here," he thought. And that's enough for today. Edward Harper awaited Anna's visit with a mix of anticipation and dread. The terminal cancer had weakened him further, his steps slower, breaths shorter. He tidied the house as best he could, dusting the mantle photo of their family. Will she see how much I've changed? He wondered, glancing at his frail reflection. The unsent letters remained on the table, a silent testament to his unspoken pain. The weekend arrived, and Anna's car pulled up. She stepped out, looking older than Edward remembered, lines of stress etching her face. "Dad," she said, hugging him gently. Edward held her, the embrace awkward but real. They sat in the living room, tea steaming between them. "I'm sorry it took so long," Anna said. "Work, the kids, life got away from me." Edward nodded. "I know, but you're here now." They talked of old times, picnics, holidays, laughter long faded. Anna's eyes filled with tears as she saw his medication bottles. "I should have come sooner," she whispered. That evening, Michael called. "Anna told me she's there. I'll come next week, Dad. Promise." Edward's heart lifted slightly. Both of them, he thought. Maybe we can mend this. Anna stayed the night cooking dinner, a simple meal that warmed the empty kitchen. For the first time in years, the house felt alive. The next day, Edward returned to the park. Lila waved eagerly, her sketchbook in hand. "I drew your house," she said, showing a colorful depiction with birds on the roof. Edward smiled. "It's perfect." Lila's innocence contrasted Anna's visit, both sparks of hope in his dimming world. Jamal stopped by later, delivering a package. "Heard your daughter's in town," he said with a grin. "Good for you, Mr. Harper." Edward shared the news, Jamal's nod affirming the small victory. Pain flared that night, keeping Edward awake. He stared at the ceiling, doubts creeping in. One visit doesn't erase the loneliness, but Anna's presence lingered, a fragile bridge. He wrote a new letter, this one to himself. "You've fought long enough. Let them in." Anna left the next morning, promising weekly calls. "I love you, Dad," she said. Edward watched her drive away, a bittersweet ache in his chest. The street seemed less empty now. Weeks passed. Michael arrived as promised, taller and more distant than Edward recalled. They walked to the park together, Michael pushing Edward's wheelchair when fatigue set in. "I've been an idiot," Michael admitted. "Thought you were invincible." Edward chuckled weakly. "So did I." They fed the pigeons, Lila joining them briefly, her energy bridging the gap. Michael stayed 2 days, helping with chores, sharing stories of his life. The unsent letters were finally mailed. Edward's confessions laid bare. Hope grew amid the struggle. Sarah at the store slipped extra treats. Mrs. Carter waved from across the street. Edward's world, once isolated, wove threads of connection. Yet the cancer advanced, doctors offering only comfort. "I'm not alone anymore," Edward thought, finding strength in the warmth of others. One crisp morning, Edward sat on his porch, wind chimes singing softly. A neighbor paused, chatting briefly. Lila ran up with a drawing of Edward and his children. "For your family," she said. Edward's eyes misted. The whisper of the wind carried a message of endurance. Edward's days blended into a rhythm of small joys and persistent pain. With Anna and Michael calling regularly, the phone's ring became a lifeline. Anna sent photos of her kids, Edward's grandchildren he'd never met. "They want to visit soon," she said. Michael shared work triumphs, his voice warmer each time. "We're rebuilding," Edward thought, though shadows of regret lingered. The cancer's grip tightened. Doctor visits increased, the prognosis unchanged. "Focus on quality," the doctor advised. Edward nodded, hiding his fear. At home, he sorted old albums, reliving memories. A photo of his late wife stirred deep sorrow. "She'd want me to fight," he mused, drawing strength from her smile. In the park, Lila became a constant. She drew scenes from Edward's stories, family picnics, adventures. "Tell me more," she begged. Edward obliged, his voice frail but animated. One day, Lila's mother approached. "She talks about you all the time," she said. "Thank you for being kind." Edward blushed. "I'm the one grateful," he thought. Jamal visited weekly, bringing soup and company. "You're like family now," Jamal said, helping Edward garden a small patch of flowers. A storm hit one night, wind howling outside. Pain surged, leaving Edward curled in bed. He called Anna, her voice soothing through the line. "I'm coming tomorrow," she promised. Sleep came fitfully, dreams of youth and loss. Anna arrived with groceries and energy. She cleaned, cooked, and sat with him, holding his hand. "Tell me about Mom," she said. Edward shared tales, tears flowing freely. Healing began in those moments. Michael joined via video. The family connected despite distance. Hope flickered brighter. Sarah organized a community card drive, neighbors signing well wishes. Mrs. Carter brought casserole again, apologizing for her absence. "Life gets busy," she said. Edward forgave easily, warmth spreading. Yet internal battles raged. Why now, when time's short? Edward wondered. He wrote journals, capturing thoughts for his children. Lila's drawings adorned his walls, symbols of unexpected bonds. One sunny afternoon, Edward's grandchildren arrived with Anna. Their laughter filled the house, chasing shadows. They played in the yard, Edward watching from the porch. "Grandpa," the youngest said, hugging him. Edward's heart swelled. This is worth the fight. As evening fell, Jamal stopped by, joining the impromptu gathering. Stories flowed, connections deepening. Edward realized his struggle had forged resilience, turning isolation into community. The wind whispered through the chimes, a gentle reminder of life's fleeting beauty. Edward Harper's final months unfolded with quiet grace despite the relentless grip of terminal cancer. Pain shadowed his every movement, his breaths shallow, his body frail. Yet, in his small house, connections with family and strangers wove a fragile strength that carried him forward. Anna visited weekly, often with Emma, 7, and Tommy, 5, Edward's grandchildren. Their laughter filled the rooms, chasing away the silence. Emma showed Edward her crayon drawings, one a scribble of him with park birds. "It's you, Grandpa," she said. Edward smiled, voice weak. "Just like Lila's." Tommy raced in the yard, his energy a spark of life. Anna cooked simple meals, her presence a steady comfort. "I'm sorry I stayed away so long," she said, eyes wet. Edward squeezed her hand. "You're here now." Michael came midweek, balancing work with visits. He brought burgers from Edward's favorite diner, though Edward ate little. On the porch, they talked, Michael confessing, "I thought you'd always be here, Dad." Edward patted his hand. "You're listening now." That's enough. Inside, Edward battled resentment. Why only now? But chose gratitude, cherishing these fragile moments. Lila, the young artist, visited daily, reading stories or sharing school tales. "Stars are giant fireballs, Mr. Harper," she said, eyes wide. Edward chuckled. "You make it new, kid." Her mother brought meals, her quiet kindness a gift. Jamal, the delivery driver, fixed leaks and mowed the lawn. "You're family now," he told Edward, their talks deep and honest. Sarah from the store rallied neighbors for a card drive, notes of well wishes piling up. Mrs. Carter returned with casseroles, apologizing for her absence. "Life got busy," she said. Edward forgave her, warmed by the gesture. Nights brought pain, keeping Edward awake. He stared at ceiling cracks, thoughts swirling. "Loneliness almost broke me, but kindness saved me." He journaled for his family, advice, confessions, love. "Forgive yourselves," he wrote. Hospice nurses offered gentle care, doctors urging comfort over cures. Edward accepted it, his hope now in meaningful endings. One autumn day, the family gathered for a feast. Anna's roast chicken, Michael's wine, the grandchildren setting the table. They shared stories, laughter mingling with tears. Edward gave them his letters. "Read them later," he said. Anna hugged him. "We love you, Dad." Michael nodded, eyes misty. Winter came, and Edward grew bedridden. His world, the view from his window. Snowflakes falling, wind chimes singing. Anna stayed close, reading or playing music. Michael called nightly. The grandchildren sent voice messages. "Love you, Grandpa." Lila gave him a scrapbook of drawings. Birds, parks, family. "For you," she said. Jamal shared one last soup, saying, "You taught me what matters." In his final days, Edward's battles quieted. "I fought, and I lived," he thought, peace settling in. One dawn, as light painted the sky, Edward passed, Anna holding his hand, chimes whispering outside. The family mourned but celebrated his life at the park, where his bench bore a plaque. In memory of Edward Harper, who found strength in connection. The wind carried on, a testament to a life where hope triumphed. Edward Harper's passing left a quiet void in the weathered house on the quiet street, but his presence lingered in the hearts of those he touched. The winter sun cast pale light through the windows, where Anna and Michael sorted through his belongings, each item a thread to their father's life. The pile of letters, once unsent, now rested in their hands, pages worn from Edward's shaky script. "I wanted you to live fully," he wrote. "Don't let time slip like I did." Anna's eyes brimmed as she read, Michael's hand steadying her shoulder. "He was trying to teach us even at the end," she whispered. They found the scrapbook Lila had given him, its pages bursting with drawings of birds, parks, and Edward's kind face. "This is how she saw him," Michael said, tracing a sketch. The siblings decided to keep the house, a place to gather and honor their father. Emma and Tommy, Edward's grandchildren, ran through the rooms, their laughter a faint echo of the joy they'd brought him. "Can we plant flowers for Grandpa?" Emma asked. Anna nodded, envisioning a garden like the one Edward had tended with Jamal. The park remained a sanctuary. Lila, now 11, visited Edward's bench daily, her sketchbook heavier with new drawings. The plaque, "In memory of Edward Harper, who found strength and connection," gleamed under snow. She drew the bench, adding a figure resembling Edward, birds circling above. "You're still here, Mr. Harper," she murmured, tucking the sketch into her book. Her mother watched, touched by her daughter's devotion. "He gave her something special," she said to Anna during a visit. "Hope, I think." Jamal felt Edward's absence keenly. Delivering packages on the street, he'd pause by the house, remembering their talks over soup. Inspired, he started a community program, delivering meals to elderly neighbors. "Mr. Harper showed me how small things matter," he told Sarah at the corner store. Sarah, moved by Edward's story, expanded her card drive into a regular check-in system for locals. "He made us see each other," she said, pinning a photo of Edward to the store's bulletin board, a quiet tribute. Mrs. Carter, the neighbor who'd drifted away, began hosting porch gatherings, inviting old and new faces. "Edward reminded me to slow down," she admitted, serving her casseroles. The community grew closer, Edward's legacy a ripple that spread beyond his street. Anna and Michael attended one gathering, sharing stories of their father's resilience. "He fought loneliness with every ounce of strength," Anna said, her voice steady with pride. Anna found healing in action. She volunteered at a hospice, offering companionship to patients like Edward had been. "I wasn't there enough for him," she confided to a coworker, "but I can be here now." Michael, once distant, grew closer to his own children, reading Edward's letters to them at bedtime. "Your grandpa taught me to listen," he'd say, their small hands in his. One spring day, the family and community gathered at the park for a memorial. Lila unveiled a new drawing, a mural of Edward surrounded by birds, painted on a community center wall. Emma and Tommy planted flowers by the bench, their giggles mingling with the wind's soft hum. Jamal shared soup, Sarah passed out pastries, and Mrs. Carter led a toast. To Edward, who showed us connection is everything. As the sun set, Anna and Michael stood by the bench, the wind chimes from Edward's porch echoing faintly. "He's still with us," Michael said, pointing to the mural. Anna nodded, clutching a letter. "In every kind act, every moment we share." The wind carried their words, a whisper of Edward's enduring spirit, binding them all in love and memory.